A question for both of you, a follow-up to my colleague from the Philippines. You mentioned the South China Sea and the harassment activities of China against Philippines vessels, Navy, or what have you. To what extent do those harassment activities trigger the activation of your mutual defense pact? I mean, have you set red lines that would trigger the activation of the mutual defense pact? And then more broadly, Secretary, obviously the United States is in a huge push since the beginning of the Biden administration to beef up relations with the Philippines here, of course, South Korea, Japan, Australia, Pacific Islands, what have you. To what extent are you not, in fact, as Beijing accuses you of doing, and Beijing also accuses the United States of using the Philippines as a pawn, to what extent are you not, in fact, encircling China and provoking Beijing? And if I may, and I'm sorry to move on another region,
Leon,
but if I may ask your question on Niger, the junta asked the United States to pull out its troops. This comes after France was asked to pull out and has pulled out. Were you surprised by that decision? Were you disappointed? And it leaves a huge vacuum. What is your thoughts about that? Thank you very much.
Okay. You want me to start? Or it's with you. So with, Leon, thank you. With regard to the Mutual Defense Treaty, I'll simply repeat what I said. We stand behind it. We have an ironclad commitment to it and to the Philippines. And Article 4 of that treaty extends to any armed attacks on Filipino armed forces, on public vessels, on aircraft, and that would include its Coast Guard. And that would also be anywhere in the South China Sea. So we've been very clear about that, very consistent about that. With regard to the partnerships, to the alliances that we have been building out, that's actually been a central focus of our foreign policy, not only re-energizing, reinvigorating existing partnerships and alliances, but reimagining them and building new ones that are fit for specific purposes. None of these are directed against anyone or anything. They're in service of something. They're for trying to realize the positive vision that all of the countries involved share of a free and open Indo-Pacific. And as is the case with the trilateral work we're doing with the Philippines and Japan, and we just both mentioned a moment ago, there's a very strong affirmative agenda. But again, it's not designed against anyone. It's in service of realizing a common vision for the future to the benefit of peoples in all of our countries. In terms of Niger, we made clear in Niger, including very recently, that we had a number of very real concerns in several areas, and we're troubled by the path that Niger was on. We're in touch, we remain in touch with the CNSP, and we're discussing with them a path forward.
Secretary.
Thank you. Well, I think Secretary Blinken was pretty clear that the Article 4 of the MDT specifically states the conditions under which it would take effect. And I think we are following that. On the issue of the partnership with the United States, let me just stress that this is a partnership aimed to produce greater cooperation between the Philippines and the United States, specifically aimed, among others, of improving our capacity for to respond, for example, to humanitarian and disaster relief operations, and also to improve our national security and defense needs. And that is the main purpose behind this, to enhance Philippine defense and security interests, as well as operations on humanitarian issues. They are not aimed at any third country, and they're specifically in accordance with our interests and needs, and of course with the cooperation of the United States. So that is the main aim, and in fact the only aim of these activities.